Clara Evans had always believed that hard work and kindness could protect her. But the day she was dragged into a San Francisco courtroom in handcuffs, accused of stealing a millionaire's family jewel, she realized something terrible. In this world, the truth doesn't always matter until someone brave enough speaks it out loud. For 8 years, Clara worked as a live-in maid for the Harris family, one of the wealthiest families in the Bay Area. Their mansion stood high above the ocean cliffs, full of glass walls, marble floors, and rooms that smelled of luxury. Every morning, she polished silver, ironed designer clothes, and cared for 6-year-old Ethan Harris, the sweetest boy who called her Miss Clara and sometimes Mommy Clara. Ethan's father, Adam Harris, was a widowed tech investor, quiet, private, and still haunted by the loss of his wife. His mother, Margaret Harris, however, ruled the house with an iron smile. To her, everyone had a place, and Clara's place was beneath her. She'd often glance at Clara while sipping coffee and say, "You're lucky we keep you here, Clara. Most help don't last this long." Clara would nod softly and reply, "Yes, ma'am," swallowing the sting of humiliation because she needed the job and because she loved Ethan like her own son. One stormy Friday evening, Margaret hosted a private charity dinner at the mansion. After the guests left, she went upstairs and screamed so loudly the entire house froze. Her emerald legacy necklace, a priceless family heirloom, was gone. It was said to be worth $500,000. "Someone took it," she shouted. "Call the police." The staff rushed in confusion. Clara, who had been clearing the dining table, stopped mid-step, her face pale. Margaret's piercing eyes locked onto her like a predator. "You were cleaning my dressing room today, weren't you?" she said sharply. "You had the opportunity." "Ma'am, I would never," Clara stammered. "Enough," Margaret snapped. "Adam, you saw her near my room earlier." Adam hesitated. "Mother, we can't accuse her without." "Don't defend her." Margaret's voice cracked like thunder. "She's been here too long, too comfortable." Clara's heart pounded. "Sir, please, I didn't touch anything." But by then, the police were already at the door. Within minutes, they were walking through the house, flashlights sweeping across the marble floors. They questioned the staff, searched rooms, and when they came to Clara's small quarters in the basement, they found nothing. Still, Margaret folded her arms and said coldly, "Thieves don't hide evidence where they sleep." That night, Clara was escorted out of the mansion in handcuffs. The rain poured down her face like tears as flashing cameras captured every moment. By morning, the story was everywhere. Housemaid steals from tech billionaire's family. In a single night, Clara's life fell apart. Her neighbors stopped talking to her. Parents pulled their children away when she walked by. The police didn't arrest her formally, but she was told she'd face trial. She had no lawyer, no savings, and no one brave enough to stand against the Harris family. 2 nights later, someone knocked on her apartment door. When she opened it, she found little Ethan standing there in his pajamas, clutching a drawing. "Miss Clara," he said in a trembling voice, "I don't think you did it. Grandma lies sometimes." Clara knelt, tears spilling down her cheeks. She hugged him tightly. "One day, sweetheart," she whispered, "the truth will come out." He handed her his drawing, him holding her hand under a rainbow. "That's for when you come home," he said. Clara held onto that drawing like a lifeline. Weeks later, the trial began. The courtroom was packed with cameras and reporters. Margaret sat in the front row, wearing her finest pearls. Adam sat beside her, his expression unreadable. Clara wore her old uniform, the only clean, formal clothes she had left. She sat alone at the defense table while her court-appointed attorney flipped carelessly through papers. The prosecutor's voice filled the room. She saw luxury every day and decided she deserved a piece of it. "That's the greed of the poor." Some people nodded. Margaret smiled faintly. When it was Clara's turn to speak, her voice shook but didn't break. "I worked my whole life with honesty," she said. "I took care of that family like my own. If telling the truth doesn't save me, then I'll still leave here knowing I didn't lie." Her words fell into silence. No one clapped. No one believed her. After court, as reporters surrounded Margaret, a young woman approached Clara in the hallway. "Clara Evans," she said gently. "I'm Emily Carter. I'm a new lawyer, but I've been following your case. Something about it doesn't make sense." Clara blinked. "You believe me?" Emily nodded. "I do, and I'm going to prove it." Over the next few nights, Emily worked tirelessly in her tiny apartment surrounded by files, coffee cups, and sticky notes. She studied the police reports and noticed inconsistencies. The security camera outside Margaret's dressing room had been turned off that night, and witness statements had been edited. Then she found something shocking, a photo from a charity gala just days after the alleged theft. It showed Margaret Harris smiling for photographers, wearing the same emerald legacy necklace. Emily saved the picture immediately, but when she checked the next morning, the photo had vanished. Every copy of it online had been deleted. Someone was erasing evidence. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Ethan had begun asking questions. He remembered waking up that night to get water and seeing his grandmother in her office, whispering to herself while hiding something shiny in a wooden box. When he told her, Margaret had smiled and said, "That was a dream, darling. Forget it." But he couldn't forget. He started having nightmares of Clara crying, and nothing Margaret did, no toys, no candy, could make him stop asking questions. One morning, he looked up at his father and said quietly, "Dad, why is Grandma lying?" Adam froze. "What do you mean?" Ethan's voice trembled. "Because I saw her with the necklace." On the third day of the trial, the tension in the courtroom was thick. Margaret sat like a statue, confident as ever. Clara sat quietly beside Emily, clutching Ethan's drawing in her lap. Then, without warning, the heavy doors burst open. Ethan ran down the aisle, his nanny chasing after him. "Miss Clara," he cried, "don't be sad, I know who took it." Gasps filled the room. The judge pounded his gavel, calling for order, but Adam stood. "Please, Your Honor," he said, his voice shaking. "Let my son speak." The judge hesitated, then nodded. Ethan took a deep breath. "That night, I saw Grandma in her office. She was hiding her necklace in a wooden box. She said, 'Clara will be an easy target.'" The courtroom went silent. Margaret's face turned white. The prosecutor stood quickly. "He's a child. Kids imagine things." But Emily stepped forward. "Your Honor, we request a search of Mrs. Harris's office. The boy's details are too specific to ignore." That evening, police officers entered the Harris mansion. Inside Margaret's desk, hidden behind old receipts, they found it, a dark wooden box with a gold lock. Inside lay the missing emerald legacy necklace. By morning, the news spread like wildfire. Maid framed by billionaire matriarch. Truth exposed by child. Margaret tried to claim it was a misunderstanding, but it was too late. Adam confessed publicly that he had stayed silent out of fear of his mother's control. He handed the necklace to the court himself. The judge dismissed all charges against Clara and declared her innocent. Cameras flashed as Ethan ran into her arms. "You're my heart, Mommy Clara," he cried. Clara held him close, her tears falling on his hair. For the first time in months, she felt alive again. Margaret Harris was later charged with obstruction of justice, defamation, and perjury. She was sentenced to house arrest and stripped of her control over the Harris fortune. Adam became the new head of the family company and gave a public apology. "No amount of wealth," he said, "can justify silence when the innocent suffer." Clara didn't want revenge. She only wanted peace. But Adam had another idea. He approached her with a proposal to create the Clara Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping women falsely accused or mistreated by the powerful. At first, Clara hesitated. "I'm no leader," she said softly. Adam smiled. "You're the bravest leader I know." With Emily Carter's help, the foundation grew quickly. Clara became its director, helping women rebuild their lives. Ethan often visited, bringing new drawings to hang on the office wall, each one a rainbow. Months later, Clara stood on the foundation's balcony overlooking the San Francisco Bay. The wind brushed her hair, the sun glowed over the water, and she whispered to herself, "I lost everything once, but I found something stronger, my voice." She smiled, thinking of the little boy who saved her, the young lawyer who believed in her, and the man who finally found the courage to face the truth. Her story, once filled with pain, had become a symbol of hope, not for fame, but for justice. Because sometimes the smallest voices, the children, the silenced, the forgotten, are the ones that bring down the loudest lies. And that is how Clara Evans, a humble maid accused of theft, became the woman who stood up to power and changed lives forever.